beautiful planet. We'd like to say good morning from the Women and Girls sector of the Charter for Compassion. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning here in the Pacific Northwest, where I'm surrounded by beautiful water and beautiful trees. And I was blessed enough to get up this morning and go out to the lake and be with all of them before we joined here together. And I'm super excited for Claire and Geri to join us today. And I just wanted to say a little bit about the Charter for Compassion, and that after 10 years, the Charter for Compassion is looking at Charter 2.0. There's been so much change in our world that it's really good for everybody to come to a still center point and see where our relative work is and how and if we need to shift to that. And with the Women and Girls, we're doing the same thing. We're looking at the world around us, and we are asking, where are we being invited to move next? And excuse me, as we finish up this year with the V2020 series and looking at how the Mother's Day Proclamation has affected and is being effected in the world, we are just excited to talk about how we are going to root into our vital and vibrant voices today with these two beautiful guests. And I just would like to hand it over to Brenda Gustin. And Brenda has been part of the Charter for Compassion for how many years, Brenda?
3 now, almost 4.
Almost 4 years. And so Brenda is the co-lead in Northern California Women and Girls sector of the Charter, and is going to be introducing our guest today. She first met Geri Littlejohn when representing the Charter as a co-MC at the Gathering of Humanity with grandmother Flor de Mayo and many of the 13 grandmothers in New Mexico. She then met Clare DuBois through her participation as an advisor and presenter with the Shift Network, and Stephen Dinan's creation of the 2020 Visionary Conferences and Summit. And Brenda, I would like to invite you to introduce our guests.
Thank you, Donna. On behalf of the V2020 team, we've been creating these webinars from a vision of Joan Marie, first ignited and produced by Sandy Hart, who started the Women and Girls sector. And this team is Donna Mills, Sarah, Jamil, and Maha, her daughter, her beautiful daughter, and Betsy Spanos, and myself. Did I get everyone? I hope. And this is the Mother's Day Proclamation is the way that we are exalting her voice. She's an author and poet and suffragist that wrote the Mother's Day Proclamation 150 years ago. And so what I'd like us to do in this moment is, before I introduce Geri and Claire, is to recognize the waters within ourselves. Being that humans are over 70% water, our blood is 92% water. How can we ever think that we are separate from the waters? The sound that Geri will be singing in from the trees and the sound of this bowl, I'd like you to just allow a nice deep breath into your body and to allow sound and the reverberation to begin, and recognize how that, with the waters, allows the wind to start moving and swirling inside your cells, your body, in a new way. Betsy recommended that we bring in water today, and so I also brought in this bowl of water, and with the rose sprinkled on the top of it, and so the high vibration of the rose, the nectar within each one of us, and the essence. And so today, as we speak together and convene together and commune, let's really speak from the essence. Geri Littlejohn will open our session in the way that she plays in service to life every day. Through songs of gratitude to the land and creation, providing sonic support for those being born, healing, and dying through musical prayers, as elders share their wisdom. Geri will remind us all how nature speaks to us in whispers on the wind and the songs of the birds, through the flute song and through silence. Geri has been making Native American style flutes for 30 years and expresses her love of nature and craft as chairmanship of the board of directors of Pacifica, a 400-acre garden in the Siskiyous centered on the celebration of nature and community through education and the arts. Geri lives there with her son on 7 acres adjacent to Pacifica. Clare DuBois is the founder and CEO of TreeSisters, a global women's movement spanning over 200 countries that has collectively funded the planting of over 11 million trees. TreeSisters is a social change movement and a tropical reforestation organization working towards normalizing cultural reciprocity with nature. The aim of both Clare and TreeSisters is to make it as normal to give back to nature as it currently is to take nature for granted, while supporting humanity in its transition from a consumer species to a restorer species. Before founding TreeSisters, Clare worked internationally for over 2 decades, coaching business leaders and facilitating group behavior change processes in multiple sectors. Known for her direct catalytic energy, her inspirational speaking, and her holistic approach to collective transformation, Clare is walking an invitation to anyone. Clare is a walking invitation to anyone ready to step up and step in on behalf of the planet. So now Geri will sing us in with the trees, followed by Clare, who will take us deeper into our nature. Aho.
Hey, thank you so much for the invitation to be here amongst all of you amazing women in conjunction with all that the Charter for Compassion does. And invite you to breathe as I breathe and to sink into this sound, and remembering that every breath that we take is in reciprocity and relationship with the trees.
Thank you, Geri. Clare, as we begin, I would like to recite the excerpt from the Mother's Day Proclamation that is really setting the tone for this day. From the bosom of the devastated earth, a voice goes up with our own. It says, disarm, disarm. The sword is not the balance of justice. Blood does not wipe out dishonor, nor violence indicate possession. The violence taking place upon this planet must stop. It is time for us to thrive and live in harmony and synchronicity. As humans, it will serve all life for us to recognize the sanctity of this life and the sanctity within which we were gifted. These heavenly bodies and holy bodies, and our beautiful mother, Gaia. Since we are this earth, we are interconnected and even dependent upon the trees. So thank you, Geri, for singing us in, and Clare, guiding us deeper.
Brenda, thank you so much for holding space, and gosh, that was the most exquisite flute. Geri, thank you so much. It feels as if, I know it's an extension of you when you hold it to your mouth, but it did feel as if you are the flute and the music is coming straight through you. So bless you. And thank you to everybody here that has been holding space for the technology delights of how to get this sort of thing going, which is my absolute weakness. So I'm so grateful that I'm not the one trying to do it. And Brenda, let me know how you would like this to happen.
So we spoke of you really guiding us into our bodies, having a journey. And so if you would like to do that, and then letting me know when that's complete, we'll know that. And then I do have a question for both you and Geri as we then open up into the larger group to expand our voices. Does that sound good?
Certainly. So let's close our eyes and find ourselves in the forest. And if a forest feels overwhelming, find yourself in a glade, a wide, sun-filled glade in the forest. And just begin to become aware of the feeling of being in wild nature. You may be standing, you may be sitting, your backside may be on warm, light-filled grass or earth or mulch. You may smell the ferns, the soil. You may be aware of a million different shades of green. You may feel a breeze on your skin. Hear the hum of insects or the song of the birds. In this moment, my invitation is for you to feel beyond the surface of your skin, almost to allow your awareness to drop your awareness of that apparent barrier between you and the outside world, that actually there is no barrier. You have no edge. Your awareness is vast. In fact, in this moment, see if you can drop what it even means to be human. What if you were simply awareness? And what if you were a mystery, entirely mysterious to yourself? What if you didn't even know what a mind was or a body was? What if your personality and your belief systems were completely irrelevant? You can drop it all. Let it all go and focus instead on the fragrance of the forest. When we drop what we think we know, we become available to so much more. And in this moment, I'm going to invite you to sense, to feel into this, the form, the density, the presence of the standing ones all around you, their mighty trunks, their wide, generous branches. The intensity of their presence, the patience of their standing. Expand your awareness out 360 degrees around your body. There is no limit to you. And feel them. And feel their body is extending as far below the surface of the earth as they spread into the sky. They are like a mirror image above and below so many of these species. They are immense below in their holding, in their grounding, in their depth of connection, in their searching in the dark, in their soil creation. And as you take your awareness down, let your awareness of your own rootedness go down. What if you extended as deeply below yourself as you do extend into the sky? Without asking anything more of the trees, we can lean into the part of ourselves that is tree. We can receive their invitation to be present, to stand, to be still but flexible, to be rooted down. Just feel what it's like to extend yourself down, to curl your roots in infinitesimal, myriad ways around, embracing soil and rock and root beneath you. Embracing Gaia in a million subtle ways. Being held, being anchored, being strong enough to move your energy up, to expand your branches out, to kiss the sky, to drink the cosmos, to be entirely available, nothing held back. As rooted and grounded and nourished as you can be below. As exalted and magnificent and expressed and given you can be above. So feeling your lower body literally drinking up the energy of grounded, rooted earthiness, of water, of soil, of minerals, like letting your whole lower body just receive, absorb, be rooted and grounded. Feel what it's like to give your entire upper surface, your heart, your throat, your third eye, your crown, all the surface of your skin, your upturned hands, to give them to the cosmos, to give them to the planet, to the stars, to the sky, to the clouds, to be an open prayer that just says, show me and fill me and guide me. What if this was your way of listening? What if this was the way that you made yourself available for clear knowing? What if you made a practice of allowing the nature that you are, the rock, the water, the bark, the sky, the river, the rain, the clouds, the fire, everything that forms matter? What if you opened completely into awareness of that before asking the questions in your life that provide guidance to show you who you are or how to be? Within TreeSisters, we call the leadership that arises from this place of connection feminine, nature-based leadership. The leadership arises through a woman when she understands that her nature is nature. So in this moment, with your upper self expanded into the kiss of the cosmos and your lower self rooted into the embrace of Gaia, ask yourself, what am I for? And see what arises. And you may want to just add that into the chat, and you may want to spend the rest of this session just staying in this expanded state, or you may want to see what it feels like to draw up your energy from below and above, and allow that energy of above and below to come into your heart, almost like bringing your expanded awareness and consciousness and the clean air and the rootedness that has just passed through your expanded being to move back into your heart center, so that your heart can hold the entirety of it all. But there are so many subtle ways that we can bow to the greater self and allow ourselves to be infused and informed in ways that nourish us and help us to remember who we are. So let's take a few deep breaths, either to fully embrace and expand into that exalted state, or to bring your energies back into your heart. I happen to think it is an altogether better way of being to forget that we think we even have a clue what it means to be human. But that's just me.
I feel that way too, Claire. Thank you. As you brought us into that expansion, the arms and hands just feel like the branches of the tree, and allow us to know, what can we do to bow down and serve with these hands and from that heart center. And I love the question that you posed, what am I for? Because trees don't battle each other. We're collective consciousness together, and so what are we for? Yeah. So we're going to move into a new place with everyone to expand and anchor the vibrant voice that flows within each one of us and through this call. And the thing that I love about the Charter for Compassion and the Women and Girls and TreeSisters and other groups that I've been in, it's about how do we lift up another that perhaps sees themselves as separate and different than one who perhaps walks the world stage. And how do we recognize or recognize that, so that we all are like the forest of trees, are standing together and really being one. And as you were saying too, what is it that comes into each one of us that is then ours to be, and then move into action with that. So as we do expand the circle, and before we do that, have a question, if I can find it. Just want to be in my heart. So the question will be for you, Claire, first, if you could answer this. How might people find their way deeper into their own connection to interpret and act in harmony for greater peace? And that question feels already answered in a way with the journey that we just are on with you in this moment. I don't feel like I left that journey. I feel like I'm really in it. And we often look at journeys as a place that we just went and then we come back and then we go back into the old conversational paradigm. So how might we really walk this? As I was in the journey with you, I saw the ints and how the tree people at one point, started lifting up because they had to then get involved and, repurpose themselves from the standing place that they were at. And how do we live that, walk that, and really act in that way, meaning behave in that way? Because that's where we can live.
It's not a small question.
No. No.
And I could probably answer it for about a day and then feel like I'd just scraped the surface. So, oh God, I think it will, and as soon as I think about a way to start answering, I want to answer from about 4 other different places. I'll just start somewhere and see where we end up. This could be spaghetti, okay?
That's great.
Yes, what I just did, what I just offered is an experiential way to answer that question. And yes, that also is something that we would have a tendency to say, oh, and then I just meditated and now I'm back in the real world. The difficulty as I see it is that we have been so profoundly conditioned away from who and what we really are, that our nervous systems have been brainwashed. And we've been dissociated in such a way that the normalized state has become one of separation. The normalized state is not one of intimacy. Our normal state, to me, is a state of intimacy. But that's something for over there in moments for so many of us. And then it's something that also gets disqualified and pushed to one side on the other side of the to-do lists and the family obligations and the work and the how do you survive in the middle of COVID and yet it all sits inside the context of a miracle that we're living in that is always available for us to fall back into the embrace of if we're worthy of it. And what I mean by that is there has to be enough of a self at home that understands that we have choice around how we want to live and what our value system is, and where our felt experience of reality may be completely different to what we've been taught or conditioned with, or what our families consider acceptable, or what our culture says is acceptable. And it's valid, regardless of how hippie-ish or wacky doodle or whatever it is that we will be told that we are when we actually say, you know what, I can't have this conversation as it is anymore, it's hurting me, or I can't collude with this culture in this way anymore, it's outside of my value system, or I can't continue this job anymore, or stay in this relationship for a second more, or be talked to by my kids in this way, or continue to be tolerating levels of abuse that I've tolerated for so long. You know, it's like when they're at these moments where we have to be present enough in ourselves and value ourselves enough to say, you know what, I can't perpetuate this state of dissociation or self-betrayal or compromise one moment longer. And the voices of our longings, or the voices of what is missing in our lives, or the emptiness, or the depression, or the illness, or whatever it is that has like woken us up enough to the fact that there's something else, starts to be loud enough over here, or we let it be loud enough that it starts to draw us home. And in that moment of being drawn home, to dare to fall into the unknown, what I call free fall, that free fall of passing through the layers of the conditioned shoulds and oughts into the nothingness of, oh my God, I have no idea who I am. I have no idea how to relate to these feelings that are basically the disintegrating conditioning of everything that I've been taught, that is largely a lie in our culture anyway, but we're hooked in, we're addicted to it, we're identified with it. As all of that starts to blur and you're just in, oh my God, this is so uncomfortable, and your psyche is reaching out to try and grab onto a handhold. You know, I want to hang on to the side of the river. Well, you don't. You want to let go of the banks, because the river knows who you are.
Exactly.
The river knows what you're for. The river knows where you need to go. The river knows everything. And unless we're prepared to let go of what we're not, we're never going to discover who and what we are. And my way of looking at things is I'm made of these trees that I'm staring at. I'm made of the air that is the breath of the algae and the green things on this planet. I'm made of everything that I've eaten that was soil however long ago. I'm made of starlight and sunshine and the oceans and the rivers. So the intelligence of all of that is what makes me up. And we're told that our junk DNA, our so-called junk DNA, is the DNA of every other living thing on this planet. So we are encoded with all of life. All of life is in us, and we are all of life. Therefore, there is no limit to our intelligence. There is no end to our capacity to love. There is no limit on the degree to which we can connect. Only that is imposed by ourselves or our cultures. Therefore, all of that is up for grabs, can be dismantled. But again, it takes enough presence and willingness to go, you know what, this isn't it. I have a fundamental felt sense of dissatisfaction or emptiness, or, you know, these addictive behaviors that I have are a cover for some gap that is so painful. I'm trying to fill it or mask it with other behaviors. And can I be honest enough with myself to recognize that actually something's missing? And can I not tend to the addictive behaviors? Can I actually sit in the uncomfortable gap and allow what is missing to show itself so fully that I have a chance to understand how to fill it? Because I think what's missing for the majority of us is a profound cellular intimacy with the natural world that we are made of, that carries the intelligence of billions of years worth of evolution, that is swimming in a cosmos of limitless intelligence, that is waiting to tell us who we are and is waiting to become conscious through us. So, in short, if you're dissatisfied, there's a reason. If you're telling yourself that you're satisfied and it's sitting on top of a roaring gap, get honest with yourself. If you're sitting in complete confusion, well done. Congratulations. You've started a journey home. Don't try and strive to know who you are. See if you can drop further into the dismantling process. If there's anything that we need right now, it's the dismantling of everything that we think we know, because we're in the greatest gap we've ever been given through COVID, as hellish as it is for many of us. It's an opportunity for a dismantling. So now is the time to be opening into intimacy with the greater self. An osprey has just flown straight over my head. Now is the time to go talk to ospreys. You know, now is the time to discover you've got wings. You know, we've got wings. Yes. We've got the capacity to ascend and to fly and to have a different perspective. We have it. It's all inside us. Well, then what are you going to do to consciously and proactively deepen your intimacy with your natural self?
I love to sound that bowl. It's made of indium, which is said to come from the cosmos, and they tuned it to the D sharp, which is said to balance the whole body. So breathing it in, and it brings to mind, as you spoke, part of the discovery, self-discovery you were saying, you know, when you get confused and all, and it keeps coming to mind for me to shake it up rather than to let it sit and, you know, just ferment and not allow that river to come alive inside of us. And I've called it shaking medicine, and I've seen you and been with you in moving that energy. And I wanted to ask about that because I feel that's an incredible tool to help people. And I also bring it up. There was a woman who is a surgeon, and she was working with veterans, and she explained that in nature, what happens is, she showed a video, I think it was of a gazelle running from a lion. And once the gazelle got away and it was out of harm's way, it just shook everything off, clearing what she described as the post-traumatic stress. And then it just started eating and was calm. And I feel we've contained ourselves and separated ourselves from that nature, that wild nature inside of us, and not allowed our emotions, you know, oh, you're too emotional, you know, you can't do that. And you were talking about that. And so that conditioning is keeping us from who we really are. And so for me, talking about how do you deal with that when somebody says, Claire, contain yourself, or something like that.
Well, nobody says that to me, because nobody says that to me. And if they did, I would laugh in their face, unfortunately, because it's me. And then I'd probably do something ridiculous like take all my clothes off, because I'm damned if I am going to be shut down anymore. But I mean, that's part of TreeSisters. You know, that's inside of the culture of TreeSisters. The shaming and containing of the feminine is the biggest sickness on this planet. And therefore, if we collude with it, we are saying yes to our subjugation. And I have only the worst swear words up my sleeves if with regards that. So when you are subjugated and squashed and become fixed and what's the right word for it, stifled, immobilized, compromised, de-wilded, de-womaned, damned. You know, it's like damming a river. Like, you've got this wild, raging, glorious, alive mountain stream, and you stick a dam on it and you kill half the watershed.
Yeah.
And the life force of that river and its capacity to energize itself is gone. Well, that's woman. That's what's happened. And we've been taught to fear ourselves. We've been taught to fear each other. We've been taught to fear our sexuality. We've been condemned. We've been told that it's sin. We've been conditioned away from ourselves. We've been conditioned away from our subtle gifts. We've been conditioned away from our sensuality, our eroticism. I mean, look at nature. Did you ever see anything so erotic as these flowers that just open and, you know, just say, do me, do me? Well, a woman can't say that to the sky. We can't say to the cosmos, you know, fill me and show me who I am, because we're supposed to be these polite, deodorized, plucked creatures that look a certain way in order to have the, you know, to be acceptable to be on the arm of a man who, back in the witch burning days, were our only means of ways of surviving. And that deep conditioning that says, basically, if you are anything like what a woman is, you will die. And in order to survive, you have to be A, B, and C. That is still deeply welded into our subconscious and our conscious. So what are the means by which you can unravel that conditioning out of yourself? Well, certainly not by standing still. And the, you know, the masculine way, classically, as I see it in terms of awakening, is very still. You know, meditative stillness, sitting for great amounts of time. I'm not going to disqualify it. I love it. I love stillness. But it's one side of a polarity, and that is the stillness and the flow. You know, the formless and the form, the horizontal and the vertical, the night and the day. It's like there's another side to it, and that other side is in perpetual motion. You know, our planet is not sitting still. Everything is spiraling. A woman's body is not still. It's constantly spiraling. You know, the moon is in our womb. We are up and down, in and out, on and off. We flow with the tides, and therefore our homecoming has a tidal, seasonal flow to it. We are a dance. You can't not be a dance. It's happening in our body, and the dance of our bodies is cosmic. So it's vast. It's tuned into an entire mystery. So as you know, often when I start public speaking from stage, I'll get everybody in the room to shake their bodies as hard as possible. Why am I doing that? Because it's like shaking the body so that you change the state, you know, changing the state so that it's like plowing a field. Not that I like plowing fields, but you know what I mean. It's just like, how are you going to make this, once you've been sitting there for God knows how long, your ass is numb, your brain can't think, you're like soil that's got compacted down, and then the next person's going to start throwing their seeds, but he can't take them in. So
Right.
shake your body as hard as possible. It makes you available so that your energy and your mind can say, okay, what's coming and how can I receive it? And then hopefully there's some gaps in that soil so that some of the seeds can land and take root. But at a bigger level in your life, the thing that we've been taught to do, good English people certainly, is if you have emotion, don't show it. It's like if your soil starts sprouting something, compact it down. If your river starts flowing a little bit messily, damn it, like do not show it. Why? Because that emotion is an expression of yourself calling you home. And the powers that be on this planet, especially some of the major religious ones that were behind the witch burnings, they don't want original thought. They don't want you to have your own leadership, and they don't want you to have your own power. They want power over you. And it may have changed in a million subtle ways since those dreadful times, but the conditioning is still there. So, you know, we're fearful if our emotion starts moving that somebody else is going to be burdened. We're fearful that we'll be shamed. We're fearful that we'll be hurt. We're fearful that we'll be too much. And again, it's up to the individual to get to the point where you're just not prepared to live inside of anybody else's shoulds and oughts and projections of what an acceptable human being is, and to find the pathways for yourself to undo the suppression and the layering. And for me, that involves a lot of dance. You know, Geri, she can't not have the music moving through her body. That's vibration moving through her body. She can't play the flute and stay still. Like she is a reed, like the wind is moving through her. So she can be done by the wind. She can like let the wind do her. She can let the music do her. Well, one of my paths home was 5 Rhythms Dance, like 25 years weekly of just dancing. Let the music through you, let it have you. Don't dance, be danced.
Be dance, yes.
Be danced. Like learn how to be danced. Learn how to let something else move through you and let that take the driving wheel for a while. And if it wants to take you, fine. If it wants to sing through you, fine. If it wants to bawl its eyes out, fine. If it wants to rage and beat the bed, fine. Like whatever it needs to do to express itself and discharge itself, let it. Don't be attached to needing to be a certain way in order to be acceptable. What has happened to us is not acceptable. Therefore, quite a few of the pathways home to ourselves are not going to appear culturally acceptable. That's fine. It's fine. Enjoy the experience of your own homecoming. Don't try and control it. That's all I'd say.
Thank you. And Geri, you came on just perfect. I just love that. And, you know, allowing yourself to be breathed, and then you to bring that through your flutes and how they express through you. And so it's just, thank you, Clare, for just leading right into Geri. How would you share that you dance this in the world and bring that into light and the sacred presence on the earth?
It's so beautiful. It's the yes and. It's everything Claire said. And it's the dance inside our bodies to feel what our heart feels like, to feel what it is for the waters to move through our kidneys. You know, it's very interesting because when I go somewhere and other people are dancing, I'm dancing inside almost as often as anything. And it's the inquiry, you know, when we notice what isn't working out here, and also can celebrate the beauty of what is working out here, and then come into our hearts. And again, dancing with the elements, at least for me, it's interesting that the months of COVID, I have spent more time in my yard watching the sun come up and the sun go down than I ever have in my life.
Yeah.
And I love everything that Claire said, and it's like a resounding yes, yes, yes. And how interesting that during this time, what I found myself doing is being still, but in a completely different way. And going deeper into that stillness of knowing myself and knowing that myself, through these elements that are inside of myself, are inside of all other beings, as Claire was saying, and I hadn't really thought about that, all of the other genetic material of our relatives, that's all available as well. And so if I turn to the trees and I look at the acorn and the entelechy of the acorn that becomes the oak, and I look at this time that we're in, and there is an intelligence on this planet for what it wants to become now. And if I say, as someone reminded me yesterday, that I am not yet the fullest expression of myself, and I am inquisitive about what that fullest expression might be, I also open up avenues to say yes in those quiet ways that are incredibly vibrant. You know, it's not the quiet of submission or the quiet of compaction. It's the quiet of feeling all of the energies that help the buds to open and the crocus to emerge from that earth. It takes courage to break dormancy. And so I say yes to both of those. And there was something with that's in this moment. It's the yes to the courage to move and dance like the leaves on the tree, and to feel the current and the pulses through the trunk and be all of it.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm. Oh, and I know what the other thing I was going to say is I was laughing and smiling when Claire said she gets everybody to shake and write. I sit and I've been thinking a lot about and when I, if I come in front of a room full of people, a room of nobody, it's always the invitation to drop into the heart, to become, as she led us on that walk, to become that formless expression of creation, not attached to this human experience, so that we can come more deeply into our human experience. And the invitation as people still the mind, especially when there's a lot of people, it's really interesting to watch people drop into themselves and then have the awareness that they're in a room full of people who are in exactly the same state of presence as they are. And what that does in terms of being part of this toroidal energy of the world moving, and how easy it is to access that through our senses and through creativity. That's what comes to me in words in this moment. often I just play through the flute, and I've really been enjoying finding words in addition.
Thank you, Geri. So at this point, what I'd like us to do is Donna, who's also part of our V2020 team, and I also want to mention that Donna and Sarah are the co-leads for the Women and Girls sector of the Charter for Compassion. So if you could open up into the expanded view to start having everyone join us, it would be lovely. And as we do this, what I'd like everyone to do is really go into that stillness within yourself where the dance is ever loving you. She caresses you, he holds you. And allow that movement, like the vritti, the seed inside of you, to begin to blossom into its essence. I invite you to focus on something that you would like to share and enhance or ask Geri or Clare or both on this call. So really dive deep back down into those roots, your legs, your entire body, into your soil. And then when you feel to, you can pose a question in the chat, which Donna can read, or you can raise your hand and you'll be called upon. And please, in this space together, move into your essence with focus and intention. And stories, you can offer those onto our Facebook page and share. We have a V2020 Facebook page that is being placed in the chat by Donna or Sarah or someone there that can do that. Thank you. And let's move forward and expand this room. Thank you so much, Clare. Thank you so much, Geri. It's such a delight to have you here. Delight. Donna, go ahead.
Brenda and Geri and Clare, brilliant. And I saw Kate's yes, 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 and I had to move outside. So, and I have a really cheeky rooster. He may chime in a minute, but Kate, I was with you, right? Yes, all the yeses.
Okay.
And I have to tell you what this did for me is both Geri and Clare speak my voice. They speak my language. I speak your language. I am with you. I am with you. I am with you. And now I feel, you know, I'm in northern Idaho among the lakes and rivers of this beautiful panhandle, and I am there every day. And Geri, same. I have just been still in the water, still in the woods, still in the sun, still in the rain. Well, actually I was dancing in the rain, but yes, all of this, right? And what this has done for me is it's risen my voice, not his, it's risen my voice louder. And now I feel like, oh, into my full lioness on the West Coast, because Geri, she's on the West Coast. I'm going to handle some Idaho for you. And while Clare is in the UK, and Kate in Wisconsin, and all of you, wherever you are, boy, I just invite you to, I hope that you feel your voice risen here, because it certainly has just enlivened me today. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. And if you would turn on your video, if you can, we'd love to see you live, your faces. It's beautiful to see your presence. It's great to have you here. See the ladies that are here.
I like that Clare is in Seattle-ish. I know that area, that Seattle-ish area.
Whidbey Island. Thank God.
Ah, my favorite place in Seattle.
Love that.
Are you in lately?
Luckily, my husband has a son who lives here, so we could evacuate to. Oh, it's heaven! It's heaven.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, we had a very near miss with the fire. Very, very near miss.
Did you? I'm glad you're okay.
It is interesting though, because it catalyzed a bout of intense weather working, or at least expanding into elemental connection. I mean, from a place of fundamental desperation, you know, I was watching the fire heading straight for our house at full speed. And one of those moments where you go, the fire is inside me, the wind is inside me, the water is inside me. I am so much more than this. Like, what the hell do I do? And wow, it's one way of growing up.
Can you describe how you were with that?
Well, I mean, actually what happened was I was sobbing like a child. I was terrified. The wind was the only time I've known the wind like that before was the day of the Paradise Fire. We're out, because that was like 50 miles north of us. And literally that day it was a tornado. Like, it was insane wind. And I remember just going, something's terribly wrong. Something's terribly wrong. Well, it did that last Monday. And this time there was a fire beneath our house and it was heading straight for us and the wind was pushing it towards our house. And I bawled my eyes out for about 10 seconds on my husband's shoulder. Then I ran inside and I picked up the phone and I rang the only weather witch that I know in the UK and just literally said, "There's a fire heading for my house. What do I do?" And she just said, "Stop crying. You have grieved enough. Get your staff, sit down, put your staff in your right hand." And I was just like, okay. So I literally just like ran inside, got my staff, sat down. She's in my ears like this. And she's just like, okay, do this, do that, do the other. And it was just like, you know, in this moment, I was shaking with shock, smoke pouring at me. We were, you know, the sirens were going, evacuate, evacuate. And it's like, okay, this is yoga. And actually what happened was she said, "Remember, you're a giant." And I remembered that I was a giant, and I grew until my head was in the ionosphere and my hands were in the fire, and I could breathe in rain and I could breathe it down through my hands, and I was immense. And it was a profound relief. It was actually a profound relief. I was just like, oh God, you know, this is what a woman is. This is what a woman is. And it was literally happening through me in that moment was, okay, so everything I thought I knew about what a woman is like, you know, this big in comparison to the enormity of what's possible. And I communicated, I listened to the fire. I listened and listened and listened. And it was a lot to do with the desecration of the land and the desecration of the native peoples and restitution. And I thought, I can't bargain with that because this needs to happen. And then I listened to the wind, and the wind and the fire were talking to each other, and the wind was saying, "I'll do what you need," to the fire. And then I talked to the ocean for a while, and then I just sat in relationship with the with all the elements together. And then I started asking, is there another way this can be done? Like, is there another way? Like, if I lay in the fire, I put my entire body in the fire, and I, you know, the Clare version of Ho'oponopono, just like grieving and acknowledging and honoring and giving myself to it. And then I was basically shown grow a column of water 6 miles wide over that entire area, and it was sky deep, and I could feel it. And it was like letting the fire know that it could come this far, but then it would hit it would come this far, then it would hit water. And that exact line, it was the line of the fire. It never budged, never came over that line. And the next day, the same thing happened. The wind got up, and I immediately grabbed my staff, sat down, and just started working. And I know there were hundreds and hundreds of people in the area all doing the same thing in their own way. But the third day was interesting. The wind got up. I mean, the fire's not out yet, but it's away from our homes. The third day, the wind started, and I went to start, and it said, no, the land needs to burn. And there just was this sense in my body of, we have done so much damage, and it makes me want to weep actually, and the fire is the cleanser. And there is California was built on atrocity in the same way that so much of this country has been built on atrocity, and nature will do it its own way. So there is a degree to which we can be in relationship with and grow up. But last year I was swimming through our exquisite river canyon, and I said to Mark, I think this is the last time we'll ever see this looking like this. And sure enough, I didn't know what I was saying. I just knew it. I was savoring it, and it's gone. It's gone. I'll never see it look like that again. And there's something like I've already made peace with it. It'll be agony when I walk back into that canyon, because it's the single most beautiful place I've ever seen in my life. The white granite canyon, crystal blue water, exquisite forest. It's going to be black. But nature is having her way because of the imbalance that we've caused. And we have to be present to that. We get to be present to that. And actually there's a way of being with that will be like a prayer and a reminder to me. But 7,000 fires in California now, 7,000 fires. And that won't be all of it. So this is our creation. We get to be alchemized by it, and the being conscious to it, and the not going to sleep on it. There's no going to sleep on this. So yeah.
Thank you.
And if I might, just for a moment, acknowledge everything you just said, and the reminder, and that is some of the being still here is working with a particular property, and then working with the ley lines and the grid lines, and doing that cleanup work. So right, that's the reminder as you share that, the cleanup work within inside ourselves, and as much cleanup work as we can do, because yes, it all needs to be cleansed. This history, this experience, here for transformation and transmutation, and it's going to happen through flood and fire, and it can also happen through being proactively doing that work with the land, growing ourselves to that size, asking for forgiveness, asking how to be in service, of service, all of it. So again, yes, and thank you so much for that, sharing that. And I feel that grief of, seeing beloved places burned. And then here at Pacifica, it was not that big of a fire. And so one of my favorite places on this 400 acres is actually the place that was burned, and feeling that, feeling the sorrow, feeling the change, and also the beauty and the invitation for ceremony to return to a place that was burned by a fire at a ceremony getting out of hand. So interesting being a human being at this time, connecting ourselves with the ancestors that have been and the ancestors to be, and being the ancestors here in the moment. And what does that mean? Thank you.
Yeah. Someone like to bring their voice in to share? If so, Donna, can you open their mic? Looks like Sandy.
Hi, was that a call?
Yes,
Hi.
that's a call.
Thank you, Brenda, and everybody at V2020 for hosting Claire and Geri, and hello, It was really a sublime call today, and I'm sitting in part of Cleveland National Forest in O'Neill Regional Park in Southern California. And Geri, when you were, I want to say, you were soaking us in with the spirit of your flute, as many woodpeckers as I believe this forest may have decided to land on the branch right in front of me. I've never seen a woodpecker before. And I realized it was a woodpecker soon after they started doing their little woodpecker moves. Oops, it was so magical. And I didn't have to close my eyes to imagine all the colors. So I'm here. So thank you both for setting the scale. Clare, that audacious question that Brenda asked that you said could take days to answer, and I understand, reminds me of a conversation we've been having an awful lot, and that's around patriarchy and around systems and dismantling and disrupting systems. And I was actually just on a call with Dr. Karambu Ringara, who said that systems kill something in people so that they lose who they are, so that they can, actually wrote it down here, so that they can hear the system rather than hear themselves. And perhaps that might be, sorry about the background noise, that might be something that you were referring to when you said we just don't even realize our actions. We don't even realize that we're in it and part of the system, or at least that's what I heard. And I would love to know from you, what is it that we can do, the general audience, the pedestrian, those who may not even be on this call, what can we help to spread the word of what everyone can do to dial into TreeSisters, to find action items, to what is the call to action here for us, to change the narrative, to change the language that we're using, to invite us to ask new questions. Am I even making any sense here? Yeah. What can we do to ask a new question? Yeah.
You're making sense, although it's like, there's a lot of questions inside your questions again. It's another of those just like epic things. A tree sister is a woman who makes 5 choices: to be aware of what's going on, to be encouraging of her sisters, intimate with nature, responsible for its protection, and courageous with her gifts. You know, a tree sister is, it's 5 choices essentially. And, you know, I can chunk that down to saying there's an inner and an outer component to TreeSisters, which makes us really unique in the space, in as much as there is the outer measurable work of TreeSisters, which is basically normalizing reciprocity with life, which is huge. Basically, you know, we talk about making it as normal to give back to nature as it currently is to take it. We call that the shift from a consumer species to a restorer species. Part of the habituation, you know, we're just going through the peeling back of the layers around racism. We're just being taught to the extent to which white people have been able to live inside of a totally distorted bubble that the majority of us weren't even aware was a bubble, unless you're not that. And so it's requiring a dismantling of our perceptions and our entitlement and our assumptions. They're all based on huge distortion that has been hidden, and we've benefited from that hiddenness. If you're on the other side of that equation, it's just a hell of injustice and cruelty and domination that's been welded into the system. Consumption is another of those systems. Our economy is another of those systems. Our economy is rooted in the death of nature. It's rooted in extraction. And in the absence of a deep sense of our humanity arising out of nature, dominance of nature and wealth at the expense of nature has become a way in which we've experienced our own power, which is power over, not power through. And again, we've been completely conditioned into that system, to the extent that the powers that be don't seem to be able to reimagine humanity outside of this particular version of our economy. Well, we're all feeding that economy, and we'll all continue to feed that economy until we actually wake up to the fact that the entire system is going to have to change if we're going to have any hope. And then you hold that in the context of, well, we've got maybe 5 years of even habitable climate left. You know, how long is it going to take us to even start addressing the political system in this country? You know, and we have no idea what quantum shifts we're capable of, and we've no idea what Gaia herself is going to do, because she just happened to throw this minuscule virus at us and it shut the whole system down. So we're not actually on our own. And inside of that, what can we do? So inside of that, what is TreeSisters doing? We're basically saying, who are you? You know, who are you inside of this system? Are you an ongoing collusion with the system, or are you a question mark? Are you at least willing to hold yourself in a level of awareness that says, this kind of consumption is not sustainable, therefore what can I do differently? We don't come in with a recipe that says, okay, do this, this, and this. We come in with two invitations. One is, can you start restoring as a way of life? Can you embed restoration into your life? Can each one of you ensure that if you're taking and warming and consuming, that you are cooling and restoring and regenerating? And we'll do that for you by planting trees all around the tropical forest belt, whilst you then figure out how you can reduce your consumption. So the measurable level, if you're worried about climate change and you're not sucking carbon out of the atmosphere, ask yourself why. If you're ready to start taking measurable action in the face of climate change that does actually pull carbon out of the atmosphere, we'll do it for you. So a tree with us is 50 cents. You know, how much, when you think of that, every single thing in your life you have taken from nature, your home, your body, your clothes, your car, your travel, your family, everything has come out of the planet. What are you prepared to start giving back? What's your restitution? What's your rebalancing? Okay, that's nice and easy taken care of over there. That's treesisters.org/give. The inner work is even more important, because the inner work is your commitment to unleashing who and what you are as a woman, that is a permission for other women to start questioning their collusion with what society has told us that we are. But in the rewilding of yourself, in your ability to, it's give.org, not gift, but thank you. In your rewilding of yourself, there's no map. There's no, and then you do this, and then you go here, and this is what it feels like, and this is why it's safe. It does not feel safe to rewild yourself, because embedded in our bodies all the way down the pathway of being unwilded are all the traumas that are sitting in our DNA or in our blood from our ancestors, or in our conditioning from this lifetime, or in our cultures that say you're supposed to be like this or this happens. So the pathway back to ourselves as women is laced with old undigested trauma that requires bravery. So for me, the brave path back requires sisterhood, requires togetherness, requires support, requires circle. So one of the single most important things I think we can do as women is come into circle with other women, because as soon as you're in circle with other women, the circle has its own intelligence. The form of a circle cannot sit still. It is not fixed. It's mutable. Therefore, the intelligence of the combined women in that circle will start to undo you, whether you're ready to be undone or not. But the intelligence of all of those women and the intelligence of the circle will start to call you back into who and what we really are. Jean Shinola Boland, I love you. Thank you. And so find a circle, like I said before, be honest about your levels of satisfaction in your life. Because if you're not actively doing something to engage around climate or around your own femininity, I just don't believe that you're going to be satisfied. Not really, because these are the biggest issues of our time. Find a circle. If you can't find a circle, figure out who in your life you can start to have the most dynamic conversations with that are peeling. There's a process in TreeSisters that I call sistering, which is where we use gazing with partners to create a current that just starts to dismantle what's ready to go. It's very powerful. If you go inside of TreeSisters, you'll find and just put in sistering in the search bar. It should take you to a video that explains this process. It's basically using presence to perform alchemy. And alchemy is a word that I use for undressing. And I'm not meaning physical undressing, I'm meaning the undressing of our conditioning. You know, out of that, if you have enough support, if you're honest enough with yourself to acknowledge that there's more to you that you need to find, and you get the support in order to start that journey, the energetic release of that intentionality will start to move you naturally into action, because you've got more energy and you won't be able to stay where you are. The next point is, once your energy starts to move and it wants to take you into action, is not to sit on it. It's to realize that if you're going into discomfort, something is trying to happen. It may want you to make radical changes in your life. It may want you to make tiny changes in your life. Make them. Let the momentum of your life force take you where it wants to go. Because all it'll ever do is bring you closer and closer to yourself. That's the journey of TreeSisters. The journey of TreeSisters is allow the journey home, so that your conditioned stuckness discharges, liberates life force, so that life can start to bring you into relationship with life. When we come into greater relationship with life, we're less and less likely to be unconscious in our consumption, in our doing. We're much more likely to be needing to take action that makes sense. And in this case, it's got to be regeneration, restoration. Our planetary immune system is being shredded. Our planetary circulatory system is being shredded. Our planetary, you know, her flesh and bones are being stripped, and then she's still expected to give. Well, we're all part of that. We're all part of that in every moment. And we have to wake up to the fact that even if we have no idea how to change the system, we have to hold the perception and the belief that we can make that adjustment, so that life can start to provide us with the paths or the actions that can take us in that general direction. And as a friend of mine said, whose son at 17 said, "I'm going to commit suicide, there is no future for me. Give me a reason why not to commit suicide." And out of her mouth came, "Women are going to learn how to do magic again." And she was so shocked when he just went, "Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Well, so I do not believe that the feminine is going to do her last gasp in the next 5 years and then it's all over. I don't understand how we're going to do it, but I do know that it makes me want to weep actually. I do know that there is a quality of embodied intelligence that comes through a woman's body that we have no idea how powerful it is. None whatsoever, especially when we're together. It has to be through togetherness. And a circle of women is a birthing circle. And we have to be prepared to fall into the absolute unknown and not have a damn clue how to birth what needs to be birthed, because it's not been birthed before. And if there is one species on the damn planet that's got enough bravery and heart and soul to be able to let go into the unknown, because we do it as a way of life, it's women. So it's our job to do. That was a really long answer. I'm so sorry. But that's
So the answer is yes.
Please, no, sorry. It's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Claire. And Jean Bolin.
And Jean, yes, yes. I would love to recognize here Jean, who her book, Like a Tree, I adore the wisdom, the journey that she shares, and the research that you did to create that, Jean. It's very beautiful. And Kate Trinka, who's here in charge of the environmental sector of the Charter for Compassion, and the work that she does with the Global Read and the Compassionate Tree Project. And so, you know, this is such a great, rich group of people. Sandy was Sarah, an organization that is creating the General Congress of Women, which, you know, Joan Marie brought in, and we have peaceful activists here, and we have red tent certified women here, looking at a couple. Donna's here, Sarah's here. The Compassion First project that Sarah and her daughters are doing together, Nancy with her red tent circles. you know, and if I
Brenda?
miss you, please speak up. Mary, I was just look at Mary, but it's Betsy. She was, you know, it just really helped.
Brescia.
And Brescia, who's not showing her face. It's so much easier for me to see a face, but women's voices. This is such a rich group of women, and there's so many more that each of us here know. And just, you know, let's open our hearts, spread our branches, you know, go down into the mycelium and communicate through those ley lines, communicate with the fungus, communicate through the wind. Thank you so much, Claire, for talking of that, and Geri for singing it in, and the dance of the feminine. Get inside that womb and just allow her to shake you up.
Brenda, this is Brescia.
Hi there.
I am just, oh, no words, being in this circle of women. And Claire, I feel that we are birthing something at this exact moment. It's so beautiful to be with all of you. And the journey that you led us on, Claire, was so powerful for me that I had discovered that my Zoom camera was no longer limiting to me to an image. But I now am just a black square, but I feel like that is a metaphor for having been able to try to connect with my awareness and let go of my boundaries. And so I'm moving forward with that beautiful, beautiful message, and so full with the beautiful music from Geri, and then just the energy of the people that are here in this circle. Just bless you. Thank you so much for your authentic message, and so filled. I feel so filled, and also so motivated, and also so emptied all at the same time. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Brescia. And I don't want to be remiss. Maggie also is Red 10 certified. Please speak up. I know I mentioned Joan yet. Joan is woven, bringing me into the compassionate work here in Sacramento. She's co-lead for Women and Girls Northern California also. You know, brought me into that circle. I don't know who Alma is or B. Kaufman. These are the names I'm seeing, but I want to acknowledge you that are here. And Claire is witnessing. Is that raising your hand?
I actually need to go. I'm afraid I've hit my limit. I have another event that I have to go to immediately. So forgive me all for vanishing.
That's okay.
Brenda, thank you so much for holding space. Geri, thank you for your just beautifully earthy, deep, presenced wisdom that is such a living transmission and permission. I feel just very touched on the inside. I feel reconnected to my inner flute in a way through your playing, and I know that is a transmission of presence. You know, I recognize that as a transmission of presence. So I also want to say thank you for everything that you haven't said, because you've transmitted in a way that has changed my body and my awareness. So many blessings. Forgive me for running.
Reach out. I'm so grateful to have this connection with you here, and I'll reach out and perhaps help you with your own flute, or see how there's other ways for us to weave together.
Yeah.
Thank you, Claire. I know you do need to go, and I think we're all supposed to be completed as well. So
let's do a dance. Okay.
Let's do a dance, and Claire's gone, but Geri, would you mind just finishing us off with your beautiful flute?
Yes, thank you. Anytime we begin with flute, I like to end with flute. So all of this amazing, beautiful energy that's been brought into this circle inside ourselves, I invite us to really feel the beauty and the power and the wisdom and the magic and the unknown that's been spoken to, and to breathe that in. And to take another breath and think of something you really love about yourself. A question my sister Amani White always asks. Think of something you really love about yourself and smile when you find it. And I'm going to share a quick flute song, and we can just send that beauty from that place of sacred authority and self-love out into this world that is, being rebirthed in a way that we can't even know. I remember when COVID first started, I asked, what's it going to look like? And the answer that came back was, don't worry, just start making it feel different. If it feels different, the form will naturally change. So that is often my invitation in these flute songs, is simply touching the hearts of all, because the mind may come last. The invitation through the heart for that shift in mindset, that we may come into unity and into this shifting creative process together. Oh.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Geri. That was gorgeous. So we shall meet again on all the airways. Please share this. This is recorded, and we will share it out so that the world can tap into this and be present as well. And on October 7th, the women and girls will do a V2020 webinar again, where we will be speaking with some women who are present in our political system, taking action there from their hearts with their feet and their minds into political literacy. Thank you. Many blessings.
Thank you. Thank you,
You
Brenda.
would open your mic, and if you would say a parting word in your language. If you want, Sarah, you want to say something?
Oh, I was just saying thank you. Thank you. I think everything through the silence there's been a lot said through silence as well. Just the exchange of energy today has been just worth it, right? I don't feel more words can be spoken. The energy was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
For those, oh, sorry, that was beautiful. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step in so soon. But while Geri was still here, I wanted to reflect for whoever is still here that while there was a point where I had my eyes open during the time that Claire was leading us, and she said, and Geri was in this really beautiful place in her heart, and I left my eyes open to watch this dance of energy between the two of them. And when Claire said, raise your hands, Geri's went up at the exact same time. And both of them had their eyes closed. And the beauty of that was so magnificent that I couldn't keep it to myself. So at least had to share that with Geri, right? And I was just like, yes, these are my lionesses. I know these women. Yes, well done. So it was such glorious spirit-filled space today.
Yeah, and I just want to say something to Geri also. So she started to play the flute started to play her or whatever, and then I lost audio. But what was really interesting was in that brief moment, I live next to an amphitheater, so having said that, this is still impossible. I could hear the echo of her last few notes off in the distance, even though in real time I wasn't hearing her. So it was really really cool. And I wanted to share that.
Lovely. Thank
And
you.
women remember their magic, huh, Kate?
Mhm.
I bet you're